From Nashville's WSM Radio, the original home of the Grand Ole Opry, this is a Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast.
Hey, it's Charlie Matos. Happy New Year, and welcome to our first Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast of 2023. In this episode, we're going to take you back to September of last year and a wonderful in-studio visit with our buddy Todd Snider. It had been so long since we've had Todd in studio, and he had a brand new record out. It's a live record, very appropriately entitled Return of the Storyteller, and he's got some stories to tell. Enjoy our Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast with Todd Snider.
And this is Todd Snider.
Hey, Bill.
Good to see you, man.
Great to see you, always.
Been too long.
Great to be on the network.
I had this memory. I told Charlie and Kelly, I had this memory of going to the Bob Dylan show at Greer Stadium. I don't remember when he and Willie were doing that minor league baseball stadium tour.
Yeah.
And you're standing around, you're looking, and I remember running into you that night.
Yeah,
and I thought, well, of course this is where I would run into Todd Snider. If we were going to go to a show someplace, it would be Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Those are my two favorite Americans.
Are they really?
Yeah, for sure.
That was a package deal. I remember that was the first time I ever went on Willie's bus.
Yeah.
I don't remember a lot about it.
Yeah.
But I was on
hard
Willie's
to
bus.
remember Willie's bus.
It was so fun. It's good to see you. And you've got
Great
new
to see
music
you.
out, too.
Live record coming out tomorrow, I think.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And live where?
We taped 75 shows and used most of one in Kansas City, some from Nashville, and I think there was another one maybe in New York. But we recorded them all, and then I didn't sift through them. But the whole tour, we intended to make a live record, so the sound guys were making notes of best versions and stuff.
So, live Return of the Storyteller. I
Yes.
love that title,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been patterning myself after this Ramblin' Jack Elliott, who started the talk. You know, he really did. He's 91 years old, and he was really the first guy to tell long stories between his songs, which is what I do. You know, like Arlo Guthrie did.
Yeah. They were contemporaries.
Yeah. And so I sort of live in that tradition. So when I play, it's almost like a busker. You could see it happening on a corner.
Did you ever have a rodeo career like Ramblin' Jack did?
No. Or a boat career. Yeah, he worked on ships and horses. And he's done everything.
Absolutely.
We toured a little bit when he was just a mere 90. And he was so alive. I learned so much about enjoying being on the road from him. He loves it. He loves to tour. And I love to tour. He doesn't get tired. He just loves it.
You were talking about touring off the air a little bit ago. You said when the pandemic was over, you climbed on the bus and played the part of your hero, Willie Nelson. You didn't get off.
Didn't get off. August to May.
Now, that's working, people.
Yeah.
Boy, I hope you had somebody watering the plants. Even a cactus isn't going to make it that far.
That's right. I did have a good friend help me out.
Okay.
He discovered agroponics.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've done so many shows through the years.
Mm-hmm.
I would think most nights within 10 or 15 seconds you can read a crowd and it's like these guys are going to be great or I'm going to have to work a little extra tonight.
Yeah, usually.
But coming out of 2020, I mean, every crowd was ready.
Every crowd was ready, and they were all ready to be together.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great time to be on the road. It was an undivisive, for some reason, time. I have some songs that are slightly opinionated, but it just wasn't the time for them. At that time, nobody wanted to hear that. Everybody just really wanted to be together, and it was a great time to be on the road.
Well, let's do a little Todd Snider, This Is Your Life. Take me back to life as a kid in Beaverton, Oregon, which, if that sounds familiar to you, Nike World Headquarters.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you know Phil Knight at all?
No. But everybody I grew up with works at Nike still. Isn't that funny? And they used to have their year-end sales at our high school, so we could get shoes for 50 cents and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Everybody out there runs, fishes. The ocean is real close. It's amazing, beautiful place. I don't know why I took off. I just was a person that was going to do that, I guess, you know.
Suburb of Portland or further out than that?
Would have been Beaverton, so it would have been like, right outside of the city.
Okay.
15-minute drive to the city.
And then you went to Santa Rosa to go to school.
Yeah.
And you put in a full semester.
Yeah. And I
said,
learned-
look, listen to me play harmonica.
That's
man.
right.
I don't need this. I'm a musician, man.
That's right.
We're learning that one semester, like Amy Ray had one semester at Vanderbilt.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Now, Don Schlitz did have 3 freshman semesters at Duke. He's famous
Three
for that.
freshmen.
3 freshman semesters, but still.
And then something we share in common is my years in South Texas, in
Yeah.
San Antonio.
Yeah.
But San Marcos was just up the road.
Yep.
And that's where you landed, and that's where this whole musical journey began
That's
for Todd
right.
Snider.
Yeah. That's true.
Take us back.
I had always made poems, and I was playing the harmonica. And my brother told me that I could probably find a band or something. So I moved there with that intention. But when I got there, I noticed that in Texas, playing guitar is very common. Men, tough guys, play guitar. They even have a song sometimes. And then I saw Jerry Jeff Walker play alone, and it didn't look like the guitar part was crazy hard. And then I decided he was singing about being a free hitchhiker and all this. I'm like, I've already got that going on. If you add a guitar, there's like the difference between a freeloader and a free spirit is 3 chords on the guitar. You know.
Please tell me that's a lyric in one of your songs.
It might be.
If it's not, it
Will
needs
be.
to be, right? I just thinking about all of the life that you've lived. Where did you start to collect people? I want to say, because with Jerry Jeff Walker and then John Prine, you fell in love with. When did you start to collect all of those people that were making up your sound?
Thank you. God, that's a great question. It was Jerry Jeff, I think, was the first one. He reminded me of my dad, except for if my dad had just not gone to work, just had gone out hitchhiking one day instead of got a job. And then Jerry Jeff made that work for himself somehow, went from busker to bar singer to performing artist. And so then I saw him, and then someone told me about John Prine because they were really similar. And I got obsessed with those two. Then Billy Joe Shaver, Chris Christopherson, Guy Clark. And I would get those guys to just sit down and give me songwriting lessons when they would. And then also there's different people, like there'll be different people in different towns that are just characters too that I'll sing about, like the guy in Play a Train Song, or there's a guy, Digger Dave in Alaska. And I get to meet great people with great nicknames that are like Jimmy Buffett-like if somebody had showed him a few chords.
Well, there's another guy who plays a huge part in the story of Todd
he's been really
Snider.
good for me. And
You had never met him, but you were opening for him. Is that the way I understand it?
Yeah. One of the guys in his band, Keith Sykes, told him that I was good, and he heard a song on a tape, and he said, fly him out to San Diego and he'll open for me. So I went out and I opened for him, and he was standing there with Clint Black and Joe Walsh watching. And when the show got over, I walked past him, and he said, hey, son, you want to make an album for my label? And I was like, yes, I would like that a lot. And then he took care of me, showed me everything he could show me, let me stay at his house in Key West a few times. What a nice guy. I still keep in touch with him and his family.
Are you an honorary coral reefer?
Yeah, for life.
Look at that smile. Look at that smile. Well, let's feature Just Like Old Times. Set this up for us from the new live album, The Return of the Storyteller.
This was a song I came up with that's like a story song about a guy who's a pool hustler, and he sees an ad for a girl he went out with in high school. She's making a nefarious life, I guess. Would you say? He calls her. So it's a story song about this. And then after the song came out, this guy reached out to Bert, my manager, about making a movie out of the song. And it came out. It's called Hard Luck Love Song. It's got real actors. It was in the theater and everything. Yeah. I didn't believe it.
Not only writes songs, he writes movies. He's Todd Snider, and he's on Coffee, Country, and Cody this morning.
There's a Coke machine glowing to a parking lot. You call out a room with a view. It's the best night of pool that I ever shot, and I made a lot of money too. Looking for some company in the weekly scene. I seen this ad, it just had to be you. I hadn't seen you in New Orleans. I never was the same as mine. You didn't want to throw your fishing line in that old mainstream. No, sir, officer, you don't understand. We're just two old friends drinking wine. I'm sure she is, but that's not all she is. She's also an old friend of mine.
That's Todd Snider. He's in studio with us this morning. We're having fun, reminiscing, and sharing such great stories. Live return of the Storyteller, and you are certainly that. And it comes out everywhere, wherever you buy, download, or stream your favorite music. Think about when you started in this business, to hear somebody say, wherever you buy, download, or stream the new Todd Snider album.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, it's not the world I practiced on.
No, back then we were trading bootleg cassette tapes and live recordings, and I stuck my machine in my sock. You know, I remember those days.
With Dolby noise reduction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, to eliminate all high-end whatsoever. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, how that got to be a thing. I don't know. So you're at the Ryman on Saturday.
Yeah,
obviously.
I'm really looking forward to that.
And the last time I saw you was at the Ryman, you and Amanda Shires doing Train Song. That was so
that
cool.
young
And I didn't
lady.
realize how early in her path to Nashville you guys found each other, huh?
Yeah. I met her when I was making Agnostic Hymns and Stoner Fables is the record. And her and Jason kind of produced it, not officially, but they were so artistic. I knew to let them take over. And then I ended up being the Reverend when they got married. And then that's how I got those flowers in my hat. Those are the flowers she got married in her. And, yeah, she sewed them on there.
Well, you're one for one. They're still together.
That's
a good sign, right?
Almost a decade later, too. It's looking good. Looking good.
Like things are turning out
my
for
Reverend
us.
career is killing.
Yeah.
Here's somebody I want you to talk about.
Yeah.
And the people, we've talked about singers and songwriters and influences and heroes. But tell people who Kent Findlay was in your life at Cheatham Street Warehouse. And people will know that if for no other reason, they will know that George Strait came out of so much great talent. But he was early on out of Cheatham Street Warehouse.
Well, the first one. Kent was a really eccentric old guy. He was old when he was 30. He knew Shel Silverstein was his guy. And he was so into songwriting that he had it set up. He had a venue where you could work on your songs and play the songs like the Bluebird, and he wouldn't let people talk. But you could also, if you were a songwriter, you could live at his house for as long as you needed to. And I lived there for a couple of summers, and he played me John Prine, Guy Clark, Townes Van Zandt, Billy Joe Shaver. That's how I learned all of it. And he's mentored and or just provided a place to hang out for everybody from who's that? Blaze Foley, Townes Van Zandt, Hayes Carl, Jack Ingram. He just was a calming person in the songwriting world. There's like a spot in Texas where you could stop and somebody would really take care of you. Yeah.
And he passed away not too long ago.
Yeah, a few years ago. Yeah. But he's the one who drove George Strait to Nashville, and he was the one that told me. He's the guy that conned me into this life too.
Can I tell you a story? When George Strait was playing at Cheatham Street Warehouse, it was not George Strait. It was the Ace in the Hole band.
Yeah.
He was the lead singer.
Yeah.
When George got his MCA deal and released Unwound, the first time it was ever played was on KKYX in San Antonio, my old radio home there, by Jerry King, a Country Radio Hall of Famer. Yeah. And Jerry, on the label where it had George Strait, had the radio copy, white label, black letters. George Strait is the artist. Unwound is the title up here above the hole. And Jerry had written in, it said, lead singer, Ace in the Hole band.
To let everybody know.
So everybody would know who this George Strait was because they'd seen him play so often in San Marcos at Cheatham Street.
Yeah. That was where he got going. He played every Wednesday. And then I got that gig after he went on. I did that for 2 or 3 years.
That's amazing. There are so many little vortexes that I feel like you get there and it's a creativity place. Like you feel it in the fiber. And I know the Ryman is one of those places. Certainly Cheatham Street.
Yes. Don't you think?
Well, and where do you feel most creative? Like is it?
East Side, East Nashville, or part of, like, I don't know who's going to take Guy Clark's place. For people like me, he was him and John were like the president and vice president. Even there was old young songwriters would get called into Guy Clark's basement, and he'd tell you the rules and stuff. And that's the songwriter part of this town, especially the Americana part, but also the Casey Beathards and the Rivers Rutherfords and those guys. There's my favorite place to be around. singing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, remember the Ryman in your career. First time you played there, highlight moments along the way that brought you to the release of live Return of the Storyteller.
The first time I got, thank you. And thank you for having me on this amazing show. I got to open for Robert Earl Keen, and then I think, and then I did a co-bill with Justin Townes Earl. And then the next time I did my 50th birthday. And my main memory, though, of being there was when John played the Ryman, he called and asked me to come and sing a song. And then after the show, he said, I'll return that favor. And I wasn't sure what he meant by that. And then the night I was playing the Ryman, I got there and he was there. And I was like, oh. He goes, yeah, what do you want to play? I was like, yeah. And so that night, my dog was there that night, and John and my dog were good friends. So I have a good picture of the three of us on stage together. That's probably my favorite Ryman moment.
And your dog makes the album cover.
He's on the cover.
Of the
That's
new
the
record.
night. That's the night that John showed up. Yeah.
He's very well behaved.
He never left my side. I could walk around in Manhattan with him, and he didn't need a leash. He'd just stay with me.
Wow.
Never trained him either.
I'm curious, the Robert Earl Keen show, Robert would often do two shows.
Yeah.
He had the sit down and shut up show, followed by the stand up and throw up show. Yeah. Do you remember which one of those did you play?
I've done both. I have done both. I one time was opening for him in New Orleans, and they were chanting his name for a half hour before my turn. And then the MC goes out and says, "Are you ready for Robert Earl Keen?" And they went, and he went, "Okay, but first."
Oh, he's playing the Ryman. He's back home on Saturday night at the Ryman with Ramblin' Jack Elliott, the amazing Ramblin' Jack at age 91. Todd Snider, thanks for coming to see us.
Thank you for having me. Always great to see you.
Been delightful, really has, and so insightful as well. Live Return to the Storyteller. Handsome John is where we close this morning.
I didn't know him as well as I tell everyone I did. Hell, he was nearly 50 and I was only a kid. But even way back in those missing years when he was still just catching on, there was nobody better than handsome John.
Thanks for listening to the Coffee, Country, and Cody podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a 5-star review. This podcast was produced through the facilities of WSM Radio in Nashville, Tennessee. The hosts of Coffee, Country, and Cody are Bill Cody, Charlie Matos, and Kelly Sutton. Producer, Eric Markham. WSM General Manager and Director of Content and Programming, J. Patrick Tittle. Copyright 2023. Opry Entertainment Group Holdings, LLC.